Hey everybody, this is Diana Tower, and I would love to take a minute to show you what a successful and engaged Facebook group can look like. But also I wanted to take a look at one that already exists. So we're going to be looking at Selena Soo's Impacting Millions course community. But we're going to be looking at this for a couple of reasons. A, it's going to show you what the setup can kind of look like to give you an idea of what to sort of aspire for with your communities. But also, we're going to take a look at some things that maybe they could do a little bit better, that there's some areas that maybe they haven't done something that you can learn from. And so we're going to dig in, going to give some examples and just really take a look at everything. So as you can see here, the first thing that you're going to notice with a Facebook group is the image. Now, actually, they just redid their logo this year. So this is different from when I first joined the community. Absolutely love it. The main thing that you want is to obviously identify what course this community is going with, but also it's like, how do you want your members to feel? So when I look at this and the gold, it feels almost like sparkly and magical, but also very kind of elite, almost expensive, like quality. There's a definite feel of, elite quality that's being represented here. And that's what you want people to feel, depending on the type of course that you're offering. So with Impacting Millions, Selena Soo's helping entrepreneurs with their publicity, getting media, getting guest posting opportunities, podcasting opportunities, and getting on even in magazines and television. And so at least the feel here that I'm getting is that it's very prestigious and elite and professional. And so in terms of this image, it really nails it. So what can you do when you're setting up your course community? You want to make sure that this image is triggering emotions that you want your members to feel. So for example, here, this is Allon's group for his course, Focus Like a World-Class Athlete. And his course is all about focus. And so he wanted to create this community for a place for people to be held accountable, to check in, but also focusing. And so take a look at his choice of photo. So first of all, you'll notice that the name of the course is prominent and it's not cut off, it's not fuzzy, it's very clear. The size of the image is correct, but also it makes you feel like you're sitting down and you're having a cup of coffee and you're getting to work. It's very calming and focused, and it makes you kind of feel like, oh, maybe you're getting together with someone for coffee to talk about your work, this sort of thing. And that's the feel that he wants to have there as well. So that's the first thing. Make sure your image is triggering the right emotions. Second thing that we look at is, again, another example with Allon is the description. Okay, so you kind of go in here and what do you do with the description? Right? So some people maybe aren't sure what to do with a description. Now, in the case of Impacting Millions, there isn't actually a description. So they've decided, or they chose not to include a description. I would highly recommend that you do for a couple of reasons. So first of all, it's an additional piece of real estate or a place where people can get information about the group. And it's a great little opportunity to welcome people into the course, identifying the course again, but then also saying what this place is. Like, what is it for? How are you going to feel here? Again, focusing on the emotions that you want people to feel, like this is a safe space, or this is a place to get shit done, or, this kind of thing. So it's an opportunity to trigger those emotions as well. But also you can add a little bit of housekeeping or guidelines. So if you haven't got guidelines, which you definitely should, we're going to get to that in a second, you can have sort of quick guidelines right here. So notice, you can ask questions, stay focused. One other thing that I would actually highly recommend as well, if you want to promote your course a little bit. Now, this is the first time that Allon has launched his course, so this is fine. But in the future, you can actually say that this is a community specifically for these paying clients. If you'd like to join, you can pop a link to your sales page or your waiting list. Okay, so that's an opportunity to kind of use the description as a way to promote your course if someone happens just to find it. So like I said, so Impacting Millions doesn't have a description. I would highly recommend that they add one. Just so, like I said, you're making full use of the real estate that you have in the community. Okay, so you've got your cover image, you've got your description. What's next? Well, generally speaking, it's going to be the pinned post. Okay, so what's a pinned post? Just in case you're not sure, it's the post that is pinned or stuck to the top of the wall, okay? Because the wall is constantly moving. It's about who last posted or commented, okay? So it's not prioritized or in chronological order. It's by, the most recently active, comment or post, okay? But this one is static. Now you'll see here, actually, that Selena, she has posted an update to the guidelines. So a little bit of backstory on this. This is actually a really great approach to dealing with a situation. So Facebook group guidelines, promoting other courses and programs and events. So she's jumped in here and she's pinned this post because she's realized that our community guidelines may have been unclear. This is fantastic. It's also a really great example of why you need to have clear guidelines right from the beginning, because if you have the clear guidelines in place at the beginning, you can avoid having to kind of put these update posts in. This is great because it's obviously an issue that they wanted to deal with. Also, the way that they talk about the situation is fantastic. So it's very respectful. You'll notice that it's very encouraging. The language that she uses, she's triggering emotions. Like, it's not to make people feel bad. It's not super negative. It's quite encouraging. But it's also firm because they obviously don't want other courses being promoted in the group, okay? Because this is a course-specific group, okay? So this is fantastic. Now, the only issue with this is that when new people come into this program, if this is the first post that they see, it's good because it's clarifying, but it doesn't actually provide information on what they should be doing first. And that's actually what I would highly recommend anybody, when you have a pinned post, you want that to be sort of like the welcome and getting started thread, or what do I do first thread. For people that are coming in and they're not really sure what to do, you want to make sure that they get information as soon as possible so that they can actually interact appropriately in your group. So then you don't have to go and say, well, actually, you need to go do this here, or changing things or sending messages. You're going to reduce the amount of policing that you have in your community. So for example, with Allon's, we set up a welcome and how to get started thread, and it invites people to create a new post, introduce themselves. We actually gave everybody a template as well to make it super easy, copy and paste, and then encourage people to connect with others. You'll also notice here as well that we added a quick links section, which I would highly recommend, okay? What you can do is, like I said before, Facebook is scrolling, right? How do people keep track of things? How are they going to find the important posts that you want them to find? By putting kind of like a directory, okay? Like a link directory in the pinned post, because the pinned post is always going to be there, right? And so in this case here, his program, it's a 5-week program. There's 5 live calls on a weekly basis. And so what we've done here is we've set it up so that they can add a link to each of the threads. You'll see here, after each call, Allon invites the members to share their biggest takeaway and also to share what they're going to be working on this week in their power blocks. So that is a great way to get people to post and share and sort of check in. You'll also see as well that at the very bottom that there's the member introduction directory. And this is actually something that I set up in a Facebook in a Facebook doc. Okay, so this is a Facebook document that you can jump in. It's a file, and you can set up, for example, you could create your guidelines and put them in here, or you can create a check-in doc like this. And so, for example, each member has their own specific link to to go to their introduction. And so it's a really easy way to find their threads. They don't have to be scrolling to find their thread. They just come in, click it, boom, post an update, and they get out, right? Especially because this course is specifically focused on focus. They want to be focused. They don't want to be scrolling for days. Okay. So that is something to keep in mind. Now, this is also the idea of updating a pinned post. Like in this situation here, they're dealing with something that they want people to change their habits. This is totally reasonable and valid. The only thing I would actually recommend is adding the quick links at the bottom. So saying, for example, here's a link to the guidelines, or here's a link to the welcome thread, if that's what you've set up in your group. So that's the only thing that I would kind of recommend doing there. Okay. Next thing, so in here, speaking of welcome threads. Okay, so speaking of welcome threads, this is how Selena kicked off the program, posting your intros in the one thread. So actually, this is perfect. You're going to get to see two options. Here's the one thread version versus separate introductions per person. So let's take a look, and I can kind of explain the benefits and maybe drawbacks of each one. So you can see here, super clear, very welcoming, also including the guidelines. So this would be at the very beginning of the course when it launches. This would be the pinned post, right? So people come in, they're like, what do I do? Oh, look, I introduced myself on this thread. And she gives people two things that she wants them to do right away. So this is fantastic. Read the guidelines. She also asks people to like the post. This is a great idea, although a lot of people might not do that. And then introduce yourself in the thread. Okay, so what's your business? Okay. Also, feel free to post a photo and a link to your website with your intro. This is interesting. So it's giving people the opportunity to introduce themselves, slight bit of a taste of self-promotion, because a lot of people, especially in the entrepreneur area, like to just, a link to my website. And you can see like a lot of people have posted. So 144 comments. So a lot of people are introducing themselves. One thing I did want to mention as well, I'll be fuzzing out all of the comments directly, so just to respect people's privacy. But you'll notice, or I can see here, that Selena actually jumps in and she personally welcomes every single person. Okay, so like I'm looking through all these threads and there is actually a written welcome from Selena, and it's not a copy and paste template. Okay, so it's specific, it's unique, it's different, it makes people feel probably incredibly special. I know for myself that I felt really like, wow, Selena is messaging me, which is fantastic. Definitely there are positives to that, but it also creates this idea that Selena is very involved and highly involved in the community, which down the line could create a situation where maybe, if she doesn't want to be in the community all the time, I'm sure she's very busy, she has other things to be doing, but then people might expect it. And actually, this is probably why that situation, for example, let me just find this other thread. A couple of months into the program, they did another announcement post. Let me just find it. The community manager went ahead and she posted this update post. This was pinned for a while, and it's talking about tagging Selena in the Facebook group. So take a minute and look at the language that she's using here. So you can see here, we've been so impressed with how active you are. We want to remind you what is said in the community guidelines. It's best for you to pose questions to the entire group and not just Selena as an individual. Great, right? So we're reminding people of the guidelines. So now also here, we're informing everyone. Selena is active in the group on a daily basis and will be commenting on select posts, but with hundreds of students in the program, she simply won't be able to answer every question asked in the group or review every media bio or pitch. Seems totally reasonable, right? Since she already reads every post, which is awesome. So notice how it's like, it's reassuring us. Like, Selena is here, she's reading everything. And then it's a very nice ask. We ask that going forward, you do not tag her directly in your posts, right? So it's very clear. but it's also very nice, right? It's not in a bad way. It's not negative. Now notice they continue. We love watching you take massive action and we love cheering you on. Please continue posting in the group as it keeps our community alive and vibrant. Notice how the feels, man. It feels, ooh, like I want to be a part of this. I want to be able to post my wins, but I totally understand I'm not going to tag Selena, right? Also, more emotions. So we also want to thank and acknowledge those of you who have been helping others in the community. Okay, so now we got gratitude coming in. So they're triggering gratitude. They're they're triggering appreciation. This is a very well-written post in terms of the emotions that they're triggering to make people feel good while telling them to not do something, right? They could have come in and just been like, hey guys, stop tagging Selena, Notice again, it makes us so happy to see fellow insiders answering each other's questions. Notice that they are praising the helpers. And what's that going to do? It's going to make those helpers feel even more special. And what's that going to do? It's going to get them to help more because they want to be acknowledged again. So there's this idea of gratitude, acknowledging, appreciation, like even just joy. So there's a lot of emotions going on here, and it's so fundamental to the functioning of this community. We also want to remind you that after we finish our 6 core modules, we'll be having media mentors. So a little bit of information. And then again, please like or comment on this post so we know you've read and understand it. Fantastic. Okay. So this is a perfect example, again, of a post where they're trying to get people to stop doing something or changing a behavior. And so normally what we want to do is we want to set guidelines so that this stuff doesn't happen, so that you will be able to set your guidelines and then it's like, all right, people will just follow the guidelines and you won't have to do these kind of updating posts. But this is the thing as well. You're learning as you go. So you set up your community, you're going to see what people are doing and what the tendency is. And then you can deliver one of these posts where it's, triggering the emotions you want your members to feel, but also informing them of how you want them to change their behavior. So speaking of guidelines, we're going to take a look at those right now. They are in the files section right here at the bottom. So with the community guidelines, first of all, you'll notice that they're in a Facebook doc, which I actually highly recommend. It looks really clean. It's very easy to read. You can just go through and it's very easy to create as well. So actually, very quick little tutorial while we're here. If you want to create a file for your group, but you're not in this file section, because until you make a file, this file section doesn't show up. So imagine you're in your group and you're thinking, okay, how do I make a file? Well, what you're actually going to do is you're going to click here and click add file. Okay. And you just click it and it'll take you to the file section. So let's go back to the community guidelines. So with the community guidelines, what you'll notice is it's very clear. It's very easy to understand. And the first thing they kick off is welcoming people in. This idea of the emotions, making people feel good, making people feel welcome and important, all of these emotions, but also establishing what this group is here for. Okay, so what do we do here? What do we not do here? Notice it's to get support with this coursework. Okay, to cheer people on, share publicity opportunities, and get feedback and discuss best practices. Okay, so it's all about the course. So even by saying this is what the group is here for. There is this silent voice that is saying everything else is not welcome, right? But in a really nice way. Also, this is really important and not many people do this. Here's what you can expect from me, Selena. You need to tell people what to expect, okay, from you as the host. And this is something that people don't do. And this is basically guidelines for yourself. How much time are you going to be involved in your community? How much are you going to be, how are you going to be involved? Are you going to be answering questions? Are you going to be encouraging people? Are you going to be connecting? What can people expect from you? Okay. And this is really important. Now, what you could actually do, so for example, with Selena, they could actually add in something here about not, well, actually, they've already got it. Okay, but notice this. I didn't notice it, right? So right here, I'll be personally reviewing all posts in this group, but I ask you do not tag me in every post. This I would actually make a little bit more prominent. So even notice what I was going to say before. I was going to bring up the whole tagging and say, oh, she should add it here, but it already is here. And probably a lot of people skip it or don't notice it. So I would say that this part here could be a little bit stronger. Even making it bold, I think would make it better. So I'll be personally reviewing all posts in this group, but I ask that you do not tag me in every post. And this is really awesome. So she talks about, it's basically emphasizing the connection of people. So to give you guys some ideas for guidelines, the main things are A, to establish what this community is for, B, what is and is not appropriate in the community. Also giving people examples of how to interact. So for example, if you use, say, a template in terms of titles, maybe adding that in as well. And also just even the way that people interact. So if you don't want people being really negative, you need to express that in the community guidelines. Now, also you'll notice here, for example, she encourages people to add, say, win or question at the beginning of the post. I highly recommend this. This is something that Jason Gaynard also does in his groups, where it's give, ask, or praise. And it's a fantastic setup. It just makes people aware of what this post is going to be about, right? So it's like, oh, this is a question. Okay. Oh, this is a win. People can kind of set their mind to that mode, I guess. So if it's a question, oh, I'm going to try and help this person. If it's a share, oh, I'm going to, support them or encourage them or, celebrate with them. So that's definitely something that you can do as well. You'll notice that it's very detailed. Okay. Now the only thing with this, and I will mention this as well, when there's a lot of this action going on, like scrolling, people might not read it all. And this is a really good point. There is 11 different points here, and it's quite detailed. I'm not saying cut down guidelines, but making sure that you really highlight the most important or key guidelines that are going to actually make a difference. So for example, you can do a test. If you're writing your own guidelines and you have like 15 different points and you're thinking, oh my God, it's way too long, you can ask yourself, okay, if I removed this guideline, would it make more work for me? Or, so that's the first question, or would it create or would it detract from the experience of my members? So for example, this right here, number 7, okay? So do not post any of the following types of promos, okay? So webinar links, opt-in links, registration links, if you removed this, would it make more work for you and would it detract from the experience of other members? So A, yes, it would make more work for you or your community manager because they're going to be deleting posts or explaining to people over and over again, this is inappropriate or it's self-promotion. And B, it also then creates this noisy self-promotional community that other people don't want to be in, which kills engagement and people stop going to your community. Okay, so that's a great way you can kind of look at it if you're trying to audit your guidelines or you're trying to assess if they're good or not. Okay, so that is a really great example of community guidelines. So recap, what have we looked at? We've looked at the cover image, we've looked at the description, we've looked at the pin post, we've looked at the welcome threads, and we've looked at the guidelines as well. That is pretty much it. I think that when you're starting out a community, if you can really nail the fundamentals, like if you really can just step back and say, okay, I did this, this, and this, they're triggering the right emotions, I feel comfortable, it's all set up, especially if you do this in advance. Okay, so if you do this before anybody's in there, it's really going to make your life so much easier. Also, when you're doing all this work, if you're updating the description or you're adding files, this sort of thing, Facebook will start adding updates on your wall. So what you can do is before you even launch, you get everything ready, boo, 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 and then you can delete some of the unnecessary posts on the wall here. And also, so for example, just to give you another example here, You can close commenting, okay? So for example, here, this is a really good point. So notice that in Impacting Millions, they used one thread, right, for the welcome, okay? Right, so it was just one thread and everybody posts, 144 comments, all the people, boom, 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 they're all in one place, okay? That's one approach. The next approach is one that we used in Allon's group. Now, Allon's group is much smaller, okay? This is the first time he's launched a program. There's 24 people, okay? And also, this community is focused on being a coaching tool, okay? It is providing aspects of community, but it is an extension of coaching. So you'll notice here, though, that he's inviting people to create a new post to introduce themselves. Why would he do that? This is actually a fantastic technique for smaller coaching course groups. What you can do is each person creates their own introduction thread. Okay, let me grab mine. Okay, so for example, go in here, click, boom. Here is my introductory thread, right? First of all, it's a place where people can get to know me a little bit better. But then what happens in the comments? Okay, so first of all, other people can introduce themselves, say hi, this sort of thing. But I am putting all of my updates as I work through that course in my one thread. Okay, and so what happens is every single person is doing the same thing. And so it creates this journey or this story of the person when they first started. So for example, look at these questions. What's the number one reason you joined? And what do you hope to accomplish from using this program? So you get an idea of where each of your clients is at the very beginning. And then as they go through the program, they post updates in the same thread. And so it creates a documented journey of their progress through the course. Now, this is something that, for example, that Selena Soo could definitely do in Impacting Millions. The only issue with this is that it's an existing community and it's much harder to get everybody to do something that's new once it's like the ball is already rolling. But just imagine what it would look like. So each person would create a new thread to introduce themselves. They would add themselves to the doc, right? So this check-in thread directory that Allon has going on in his group. And then imagine that every time they get a new podcast opportunity, or every time they get a win, or every time they're sharing something new or what they're struggling with, it's all in one thread. And so by doing that, it is a fantastic way to create sort of it gives you the ability to see how well you're progressing. So it's great for students. It's also fantastic for the community host because you can actually create super authentic testimonials from those stories. So you can say, hey, Diana started here and this is what happened and things started a little bit slow, but then she started getting more publicity opportunities. Here's one, here's another, here's the next one, and actually show kind of the story of how Impacting Millions has impacted that person's publicity efforts. So it's definitely an idea. Like I said, it's much harder to get these things started once a community is existing. It's definitely not impossible. Just requires a little bit more policing in terms of the community manager that's dealing with the community. And so that, I believe, lands it. So like I said, so we've looked at the importance of the cover photo. We've looked at the importance of the group description and why you would even have that. We've looked at the pin post and what you should include there and how to make it easier for your members. We've looked at 2 different approaches to welcome threads. One is one thread, and the other option is having individual threads for each person. We've looked at guidelines and how to assess that and some tips on how to make sure people actually read them. And that's it. So we're going to land this plane. I think that this is just a fantastic opportunity to really see behind the scenes, under the hood of what you can do in the very beginning, before you're even launching a group, what you can do to really set the foundation. So you can do it right, and then you can not worry so much about your community, and then you can just actually enjoy working with your people because you're not worried about, oh, are people going to be doing this? Or, is it going to be total crickets in here? Is it like completely silent? Making sure that you are just prepared and that you're creating a VIP space for your paying clients. And also, I just wanted to take a quick minute to give a huge thank you to Selena Soo and her team for allowing me to take you behind the scenes in this community, because it is a private community. So a huge thank you to you guys. And also a big thank you as well to Allon as well, who allowed me to share behind the scenes in his community as well. So yeah, hopefully this has been useful for you. And I would love to know, what's the number one thing that you got from this video? So what did you not know about communities beforehand? And what do you know now? Or how is this going to impact the way that you set up your own course community for your courses moving forward? Okay. Hope you're having a great day. If you dig this, if you like this, if this was useful, definitely hop on my list. You can go to dianatower.com and sign up. I'll also send you all of my free goodies. I've got a couple of ultimate guides on how to build and also engage a community for your courses, and also some extra bonuses and fun things that I only share in email. So have a fantastic day. Hope you enjoyed this and you found it useful, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.